Welcome to the show today. Most of us have a colleague, friend, someone who gets us out of a bind regularly because they know a lot more than we do about what we need to do. And for me, that's you, Malcolm Keithley. I don't know how many times I call you up and need a fix with audio or some type of production I'm doing, and you know everything. You always have an answer, and if you don't, you find it. So thank you for that, and thanks for being here.
Always glad to help.
Always glad to help. You know, when you see my number, you're like, oh, what does she need? So let's get started and talk. You've been on the show before to talk about your documentary. The title is Avalanche. What is the subtitle?
The 1910 Great Northern Railway disaster. And that's a disaster that a lot of people in our area are familiar with because it happened at our nearby Cascade Pass.
And you worked on that for how long? Long
Well,
time.
we started working on it before COVID, and COVID came along and stalled things for quite a while. And but we continued working on it, working on the script and working on elements of the documentary during that time. And right now, we're just beginning the editing process for the first version. We're developing three versions of the film. Actually, it's being distributed by Mackin Educational. Mackin Educational is America's largest education distributor of educational material. And they've
Yep.
asked for two different distinct links of the program, 30-minute version for the younger kids
Oh, yeah,
and
it's very smart.
a little longer version, maybe up to 40 minutes or so for the upper classes. And so we're
That's
developing.
smart. Mm-hmm. And that's just so the editing process, as you and I both know, is usually what takes the longest and causes the most lack of sleep and backaches because we're sitting like this the whole time. But it is to have two versions, you already have to have a sense of what you want to cover. And let's talk about then how the working on this film has led to your next venture, which you always have something going, and you're always sharing with me some new platform or software or application that is useful to what we create in film, television, whatever it is that we're working on. So tell us about how working on the Avalanche documentary led to what is now, I'm excited to learn about, the Trainz Simulator Game, and that's with a Z for Trainz. I read your proposal and all the information, and I said, you have to come on my show because I want to understand this better and I want to learn something new. So I feel like the people who are watching today are going to learn a lot from you, and I'm excited to share it. So to talk first how it led to you creating this game, and just then we'll go into the details about how you're making this game and what it's all about. It's a technology I don't understand, so I'm excited to learn.
The primary decision that I made early on in developing the documentary was to recreate Wellington, the area where the avalanche occurred, as it was in late February 1910, when there was massive amounts of snow, up to 15 feet of snow. And so I decided, with the new technology that we have, that's kind of puts a lot of the things in the hands of the average person, I decided to develop and recreate all of the models of the Great Northern Railway, including all of the what's called the rolling stock, which is the engines, the rotary snowplow, passenger cars, the train car, or the mail cars, and all of the buildings that existed in Wellington and Cascade Tunnel Station. And so what I did was I enlisted the help of expert 3D model makers from around the world. And during this process, I ran across a superb artist based in Russia. His name was Ilya Osin. And his first task for me was to develop the Great Northern passenger car. And it was just such a marvelous model, exacting in detail to the smallest thing. And during the process of working with him, he said, well, my primary income is derived from making models for a company in Australia. They developed a game called Trainz Simulator. And as you said, it's Trainz. And I had never heard of it, but I was intrigued by it. And so I looked at it and found out that it was the world's leading Trainz Simulator game. And lo and behold, there are other train simulator games. Microsoft has one, but Trainz Simulator from Australia has been in business for 20 years. And they have the most popular train simulator game. And so I thought at the time, well, perhaps I could sell my models to Trainz Simulator because that's what Ilya was doing. And he said, of course, I'll put you in touch with Tony Hillerman of Trainz Simulator. And as it came to pass, they were very excited to have more models, and especially Great Northern Railway models from 1910. And I was just hoping at the time to recoup some of my expenses. As I found out, it's not necessarily inexpensive to create good models, 3D models, where the wheels move and the engine belches steam and smoke and all of that sort of thing, and you can look inside the model, go inside the models too.
Yet when you say models, so you're not actually putting together models with glue.
Well, in some cases I have.
Okay, to start it.
And then turn them into 3D models.
Right.
Digital 3D models.
So that's kind of what you're talking about. You take it from wherever it is from scratch to start to create what becomes the digital model. When you're talking about models, the 3D models.
Yeah, I would provide the model maker with as many photographs and schematics as existed. And in often cases, you're going back to the early 1900s, not very much material exists. Right. But enough to, there's still passenger cars from 1910 that I could photograph and send those to Ilya. And so I started talking to Trainz Simulator, and they actually offered me a content providers agreement. And I thought, oh, terrific. Okay, I'll recoup some of my costs. Just to give you an example, the passenger car cost $1,500.
Just the one to create.
Just for Ilya to create that.
And that doesn't even include the time it took you to get it to the point that he could create it.
Exactly.
You're not paying yourself anything. This is the nature of the business, we know. So then that's just for your hard costs.
Exactly.
Okay.
And so I signed the agreement very happily with Trainz Simulator. And then there's a war, of course, going on in the Ukraine. And I don't know what happened, but I lost contact with Ilya. I think he got drafted. He was a draft age, and he just dropped off the face of the earth, basically. And I think he was enlisted, subscripted into the war in the Ukraine. And so I needed to replace him. And in doing so, I searched for another model maker, another model making company, and I ran across a company in Toronto. And started conversations with them and found out that they were a small business run and created by an engineer on the Canadian Pacific. And for 10 years, he's been making models and finally got to the point that he became a content creator for Trainz Simulator 2.
Small world.
So he has a small business, several model makers working full time. And so I called him on the phone, and he was excited to learn about my project. He's very interested in Great Northern rolling stock. And so I asked him to give me a bid for creating all of the models. What we what he calls globalizing them,
Okay.
so that they will run in Trainz Simulator. And Trainz Simulator is a very detailed and very authentic looking a game. If you go there, you'll see their trailer, and it shows how people can run their own railroads and get in the cab of an engine and drive it on what are called routes. And so we talked to Milos about creating the Cascade route, which is the Cascade route extended from Spokane all the way to Seattle over Stevens
Wow.
Pass.
Wow.
Well, I found out that in Trainz Simulator, because of computer limitations, the routes are created in 20-mile increments.
Oh, okay. That's
So
not
I
going to
had
get
to
you far
shorten
enough.
up my first route. I
Right.
wanted it to go over Cascade Pass. And so he gave me a bid for creating all of this, and it would take his company about 10 to 12 months to do everything.
Okay,
because
hold
it's
on. I'm
so-
going to stop you there. Hold on. I'm going to stop you there. Let's take a quick break, and then when we come back, I want to hear the rest. Got to
Okay.
break it up so we have enough time for everything. We'll be back
Okay.
in just a moment. Okay, Malcolm, you're telling us the details of how you're creating this Trainz Simulator game, and we're going to show a clip behind, and you just describe what this is that we're seeing.
What you're seeing now is the newest release from Trainz Simulator. It's called Trainz 22. It actually came out about 30 days ago, and you can see different routes and different trains being played in the game. And what impressed me so much was the highly realistic details of the game, and what the users can do, what the gamers can do. And I'm not a gamer by any means. And Trainz Simulator, I'm just getting into it and learning how to drive a locomotive. But that's the whole point of it, is that you can download, you can purchase the game, and then if you want different routes, one's in Australia, one's in the United Kingdom, and some in America, of course, and you can drive your trains on those routes, and you can be in the cab, or you can be a point of view over the trains and seeing all of the terrain and all that sort of thing. And it's like really having that model railroad in your bedroom when you were a kid, but much more realistic, because you can hear the train rumbling along, you can see all of the terrain, all the landscape going by. You can go into switch yards, you can go into cities. It's really pretty amazing. And what Tony Hillerman of Trainz Simulator told me is that they just don't have enough steam engines represented in their repertoire. And
then you think, well, yes.
Here we go with the Great Northern in the early 1900s. It's all about steam.
Right.
And so they were very excited about that. And I was excited to get Milos Adamovac on board to finish developing all of the models and the route itself. And of course, that all comes at a cost.
Sure.
And so I have, several thousands of dollars already into the models.
Right.
And then they need to be globalized by Milos's company to make sure that the wheels turn and everything does what it's supposed to do. And then the route, the first 20 miles of the Cascade route, is developed. And so that cost is about $40,000.
Got it.
And so I thought, well, that's great, but what?
You still got miles to go too.
Yeah, and what will happen in the store? And I was floored, quite frankly, how serendipity works. Is that I didn't know anything about Trainz Simulator, and didn't know that I could sell my models and an eventual Cascade route in Trainz Simulator. It's projected to return in the neighborhood of $100,000 a year for many years to come. just the first 20
all from
minutes.
that passion of something you didn't even know you might, you had a good chance of losing money, if
Exactly.
nothing else, losing time on working on something that you just thought was a great idea, right?
Yeah, I'm
These
selectively
passion projects of ours, Malcolm.
I'm selectively retired, and I
Yeah.
selected this project to spend a lot of time on.
Yeah.
And
That's the beauty of the work you do too. And my knowing you for so many years now, I don't even know how long, a decade probably.
probably.
Is now you can pick and choose. And so it
Mhm.
doesn't feel like work, right?
No, it really doesn't. There's a lot of fun. I'm always interested in learning new things, and so I'm always taking courses on the internet. Just the beauty of that,
Mhm.
and so
Yeah.
and to be able to apply some of the new tools that we have. I mean, who would have thought that we would be doing a television show with me sitting in my studio and you in
Right.
yours?
Well, and what
Uh,
happened for my part, and I know a lot of people are back in the studio at our channel at NCW Life, but a lot of my shows and the people I have on the show don't live here.
exactly.
And so it kind of reminded me of my radio days that I could talk to anyone in the world because they could call in on the phone. And then when COVID happened, we all went remotely. I right away just started doing Zoom shows, and I've learned how to edit and splice. And then Rachel, my producer, she does a lot of most of that work now on the back end. And it allows me to have a conversation with you. You're just across town, but also talk with people around the world. And as you know, so much creativity comes from people like the people that you've had contact with that aren't even in this country. And
Mhm.
so it is the beauty of technology and getting to share these stories and getting to share the work that you're doing, whether we're sitting in a studio or we're sitting here.
Yeah, a lot of the model makers, I had several, and they're from all parts of
Right.
the world.
This would
Russia was
not have been possible maybe just even a decade ago, aside from the technology, but just the communication that's needed at an extra level. Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
and it keeps on getting better each day.
Mm-hmm.
I work with my main graphic artist is in LA. The one of the main model makers, of course, is they're in Toronto. I'm working with another fellow that's in Italy,
Uh-huh.
and so it's fun
All over the place.
to meet up with these people and to share.
Yeah.
And I happen to have a project that a lot of people felt engaged with.
Mm-hmm.
It's not just the fact that there was a disaster. That's part
Right. Right.
of the story, but we're not in the train simulator game. There will only be small little slides that need to be cleared by the snowplow.
Mm-hmm.
We won't have any big disaster
Right.
happening in the
Yeah.
game.
You're not simulating that tragedy.
Exactly.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
That's in
The
good
object
taste.
of the game is to get over the pass in one piece and deliver the passengers and the mail.
And the mail. And the mail. Okay, let's take a quick break and then we'll show a trailer of what you're sharing with us here when we come back, and we'll let you set that up. We're talking with Malcolm Keithley, the Trainz with a Z simulator games, what we're talking about. We'll be back in just a moment. We're wrapping up our conversation with you, Malcolm. I want to show the trailer to your film, the documentary Avalanche. And we'll show that here now for people to see what we're talking about, and then we'll wrap up talking about your new game.
In the late winter of 1910, a relentless blizzard trapped two great northern railway trains bound from Spokane to Seattle in the rugged Cascade Mountains. 6 days of frantic efforts to reach the passengers and crews failed. Early in the morning on March 1st, an avalanche 1/2 mile wide and 15 feet deep crashed down from the mountainside during a thunderstorm. It swept the trains off the tracks, killing 96 people. This documentary recounts America's worst avalanche disaster.
Malcolm, how close are you to the release? You said you're just starting to get into the editing process, which we know sometimes takes the longest, and you're doing 2 versions. So when do you anticipate the release of Avalanche?
I've committed to release the first version, which is the 30-minute version, in July, first part of July.
Deadlines are good, aren't they? I call them finish lines, actually.
I like that, finish lines. That's good.
Yeah, I don't like saying deadlines all day. I don't want to say the word dead all day long because I have a lot of deadlines. So I call them finish lines.
Yeah, I like that. I'll start using it.
Okay.
But July, the first part of July is the 30-minute version. It will be delivered to Mackin, and they will release that to schools either as a streaming video or on a DVD. And, it's up to them on how they package it up to the schools.
And then you have a 60 or 40, you said about 45-minute version, 40?
About a 40-minute version or so.
For older students.
I'm kind of leaving that a little loose. It'll be just in excess of 30 minutes and probably a little under 40.
Got it. And some of those adults might want to watch that 30-minute version too, right? Because it's just, who knows? It's about whatever.
There's a possibility that there will be a longer version, even up to even 90 minutes if it goes to broadcast.
Yeah.
But I'm not going to even start working on that until I have a contract to do so.
Yeah, good for you. Good for you. This freelance stuff, right? Oh, goodness. Well, so then how can people get more information? We literally have 1 minute left. How can people get more information about the Trainz Simulator game?
They can contact me directly if they would like to at my email address, which you can display if you'd like. Sure. It's mekeithley@gmail.com. One of the best ways to get information about the documentary as well as Trainz Simulator, I've put it all together into a bundle on my the website, and that's real simple. It's just gnavalanche.com. And there you can browse through Trainz Simulator and see what that's all about. Look at the models and see if you'd like to become a model engineer.
Well, you're always up to good stuff, and I appreciate you sharing it with our audience. And I want to have you back when all of this is released and we can see even more about it. So thank you so much, Malcolm, for sharing this and for all of your help along the way. Whenever I need it. I appreciate you very much.
You're always welcome. Thank you.
Thanks.